tiny individual, I don't think that in the long term it's going to remain there. I think that other aspect of the bigger will scale just as fast, or will amplify and grow just as fast as the small scale does. So this is the idea of professional makers. And this is, again, kind of reiterating this scale phrase. So right now, we can make 1 of something, 2 of something, and there's some magic point, 5,000, 10,000, where commercial production gets in. But the big gap has always been going across that, moving from making a few to making a lot. It isn't continuous. And there are often whole areas that are just missing, that you can't even really do in any economic way. And part, I think, of what we're seeing is that technology can start to fill in some of that, so that we can actually have a smooth ride all the way up. We can see that with electronics and bits. We have evidence. You make an electronic ebook, you sell 1, you sell 2, you sell 5, you sell 10,000, you sell 1 million. You don't have to do much different. Having that done in atoms is much, 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 much more difficult. But generally what we see, the general trend is that the technologies of information embedded into atoms can make those atoms behave a little more intangible. So we have this strand of these intangibles of the information revolution being embedded into the physical world, and that's when we can start to manipulate it and have it behave more like software, and maybe have that scaling go all the way. So let me just come down to the third scenario. So SKUs is those barcodes. It's a number of, it's a measure for the number of things that we produce in the world. And that number is exponentially exploding. I mean, it's hard to convey how many new things we're making. And there's every indication that next year and the year after and 50 years, that number will continue to explode. All right? It's just phenomenal, the number of things we're making. So in this, if you go back to the maker world, there's one vision of the maker is that people are going to be making whatever they need. You know, why buy it? Some of you have this machine in your basement that will make whatever it is that you need. I don't think that works that way, because it would require expertise on so many different levels. Even just operating this machine is going to require a certain expertise. And if we have, this is that edge, this is that frontier where you have these millions and millions of things, it's like, I just can't imagine people getting to the point where you're going to make your own car, and make your own house, and make your own wine, and make your own shoes, your own cell phone. I mean, nobody is going to do that. That's just sort of beyond the capabilities or the interest for most people. It's much more likely you're going to select 1 or 2 of those things, and you're going to do those, and you'll find satisfaction, and there's other reasons for doing it yourself, but not across all of them. So that means that for most of what you are doing, you're going to buy it. So it's easier to make something, but it's harder to make all things. Okay, so there's also lots of things that are becoming much more difficult to make. They're becoming so complicated that while the tools for making things get better and better, the complexity of the things we're making is actually getting more complex faster than those tools. And so there is always going to be this growing gap between being able to make, as an inexperienced maker, something that's increasingly much more complicated. So, I mean, this is a rocket engine, and it's, there are amateur rocket makers, and they're doing fantastic work, but that frontier continues to recede in terms of an individual or small group being able to do it, and you get into a larger scale thing of a bigger group, which is fine, but I'm just saying that's moving away from this maker to maker idea. So we can have this thing where the reason why the make can continue is that every person can become an expert in something. So we'll kind of choose what it is that we want to focus on and really master or dabble in. And so what I'm going to suggest is that most making is really recombining things that already exist. And it's not really making it from scratch. And I have one really fantastic project I'd like to talk about here. It's called the Toaster Project. I don't know if anybody heard of the Toaster Project. It was kind of an art piece, and this guy decided he was going to make a toaster from scratch. He was really going to make it. He was going to mine the ore, mine the copper. He was going to get the petroleum and turn it into plastic. He was going to make the wires. He was going to do everything. And this is, on the left is his toaster, and there's the case behind it, and that's the plug. That's the plastic piece for the plug. And on the bottom right is all the equipment that he needed to make his toaster. And there's some of the wooden form that he used to cast the plastic coating. It took him 2 years. 2 years to make this toaster, which lasted all 30 seconds. But here it is on Best Buy. So the toasters, the other toasters are like 29 pounds. His is like 1,187 pounds. I mean, the cost is phenomenal. So this is a subsidy that we have. And when we talk about making things, we're really talking about modifying things or recombining things. We're not really talking about it. So I don't think very many of us are going to go in that direction, but I think that's just a reminder of the fact that this maker movement is working at a very high level, and we're mostly recombining and modifying things, actually not really creating things. And that means that when you have if you have a 3D printer in your house, that if you have a 3D printer, you're going to print out Harry Potter or something that already exists, that's not really making it. You're in no way contributing much. You're just printing something out. It's like you're just another printer. So I think the maker sensibility has to do with then modifying something, recombining it in some ways. It's not just where something is printed. So you can kind of participate at different levels. It can be kind of shallow or deep. And I think that's fine too. But in this scenario, most of what you are going to have in your house is going to be made by others, made elsewhere, made by other processes. But you'll have a very thin part that is actually meaningful to you and you want to participate in. And that's good. That's this scenario where basically the techniques of the maker movement is inventing are going to be co-opted by the industrial commercial. Okay, so the things, all the power that you can bring to here are going to be also used at these other by the professionals. So both of these worlds are going to expand at the same time, and there'll be much more being made in this kind of professional arena. Nonetheless, the do-it-yourself, you still have 3 reasons for it. One is the pleasure. Okay, well, pleasure is big, and entertainment in the U.S. is huge. It's huge in terms of a role in our economy and our lives. So doing something because it's fun is very valid. I mean, painting little miniatures is much better than watching golf, as far as I'm concerned. Right? You're participating in something. So there's a huge value in that part of do-it-yourself, even if it's not the major thing going on. The second thing is that doing it yourself brings you to kind of literacy, technical literacy. You can understand what things are going. You're smarter. It helps you make something else. And I think that idea is very, very important. That's another reason for doing things, is you become literate in stuff. And the last one is to modify things to make things better. Okay? This was a guy before the jawbone. It was like, you can just see that. So making better is either better for yourself or better for others. That is a reason to keep doing things yourself. So the problem, the challenge is that the better designed something is, the more highly evolved it is, the much more difficult it is to improve it. If you have a whole team of people trying to optimize something, it's like trying to change an organism and make it better. It's very, very difficult. So the better designed something is, the actually more challenge it is. So even modifying it to make it better will become more of a challenge as we go along. So no one will make everything, but I think everyone will make something. That's the world that I think we're going to move into. So just in the last minute, I'm going to tell you 4 quick technologies I think are going to be important for any of these 3 scenarios, which is, I think we're still in the beginning of having a tool-human interface, eye tracking, understanding, brain-computer. We're just at the beginning of being able to talk to our tools and having them do what we want. The second thing, artificial smartness. I don't think of it as artificial intelligence, it's smartness. But imagine what the role of AI, as it comes along, artificial smartness, what it will do to the tools that we have. Okay, I mean, it's coming very fast, faster than we think. Thirdly, robots, helpers. So lots of the issues that we have with the Maker challenge could be speeded up if we had the kind of robots that Rod Brooks is working on, where they work for you, you have a personal, they don't need so much training, they can watch what you do. That will really change the Maker sensibility. And I think, lastly, it's not just the crowdfunding for projects, but I think what we're moving to is this idea of equity funding, which I think will really transform the way in which Maker things are made. So, I hope one of those worlds appeals to you and that you head in that direction. I thank your time, and if you haven't seen the cool tool books, I have one copy here. It's a huge Whole catalog size thing that I think makers would be really interested in. But thank you for your attention.